Lesson 21, some complications with the Black-Scholes. Here what we will learn here, how to deal with American style options, how to deal with dividends. Although the Black-Scholes model is designed for the pricing of European style options written on dividend-free underlyings, it can also be used with some adjustments and a little attention to price American style options and in presence of dividends. In the second case, the proceeding is relatively simple. The current value of the dividend that will be paid at a certain future date must be subtracted from the value of the underlying, more or less the same procedure that we have seen in talking of stock futures pricing when a dividend is paid. The dividend disclosed to the market must therefore be discounted back to the risk-free interest rate and then subtracted from the current value of the underlying before applying the Black-Scholes formula. Let's look at a practical example. Suppose we want to price a European style call written on the stock ABC. The spot price is 20, the strike is 20, the maturity is 120 calendar days, the risk-free interest rate is 2.5%, the implied volatility is 25%, and the dividend of €1 is paid in 90 days, so within today and the maturity of the option. Otherwise, we could ignore it, of course. The current value of the dividend is given by the formula. Dividend is equal to 1 times the exponential power to minus 2.5% times 90 divided by 365. Subtracting this amount from the value of the spot price, €20, you get the value of S to be included in the Black-Scholes to estimate the price of the call, which without the dividend would be equal to 1.222, while in presence of the dividend is equal to 0.7462. Two complications may arise in this regard. The first is that there are more than one dividend over the lifetime of the option to be valued. The second is that an option must be assessed on an index within which there are securities that pay dividends. With regard to the first complication, the solution is to discount all dividends back to the current date and all their current values and subtract the total from the current spot price before applying the formula. With regard to the second, the solution is more complex. First of all, it is necessary to determine the point value of the incidence of dividends that will be paid at a certain date, and this can be done essentially in two ways. The first, simpler but not always precise, consists in taking futures prices on different maturities and comparing them. The difference between them, not explained by the value of time, is explained by the current value of the dividends paid in the period between the respective maturities. The problem in this case may be that between two consecutive maturities dates, there are more dividends detachment dates, see April and May on the Italian market, for instance, between the futures maturities of March and June. Here you either accept a certain degree of approximation of the calculations or there is no precise solution to the problem of calculating the fair value of the option. The second way, more complex but much more precise, consists in starting from the index composition file. For each component stock, the weight of the overall index is shown, which changes from day to day depending on the closing price, so the file must be updated daily. Then, the percentage value of the dividend is weighted on the weight of the security within the index so as to obtain the expected incidence of the dividend of that security on the total value of the index itself. Let's make an example because I understand that this is very complicated in words. The Italian FTSE MIB index is a basket of 40 stocks. One of the main stocks included in that basket is Eni. It's an oil company. Eni weighs, I don't know, maybe 15% on the whole index because it is a very big company. So assume that in some period of time, it will pay a dividend of, let's say, 5% on the current value of the stock. So 5% is the incidence of the dividend on the stock. The problem is how much does the dividend of Eni impact on the overall stock index? It's 5% times the weight of Eni in the basket. So if the weight of any in the bucket is 15%, then the incidence of the dividend of any on the whole index is 5% times 15%. And it is 0.75. In the moment that the dividend will be paid on the stock any will drop 5%. The entire index will drop 0.75%. For each dividend, the payment date must also be reported. Once the entire data sheet has been fed, in fact, the dividends and the respective indices on the total index must be aggregated by payment date. In this way, the total incidence as a percentage of those dividends on the total value of the index is obtained for each dividend date. Applying this incidence to the most recent closing value of the index, we obtain the point value of all the dividends paid at a certain future date. By discounting that total value back to the current date, the current incidence is obtained in points, which must be deducted from the index value before applying the Black-Scholes formula. It's quite complicated, I understand. I just wanted to let you know how it works. American-style options incorporate a greater right than European-style options, the ability to exercise at any time. This greater right obviously translates into greater value, all other things being equal, therefore a higher price. In fact, in these situations, the Black-Scholes formula is ineffective, since it tends to underestimate the actual prices. Some considerations apply, however. 1. On in-the-money options, the price difference between the options of the two styles is negligible. 2. As previously stated, the Black-Scholes formula is not used to determine options prices, but rather to derive the respective implied volatilities from prices. And 3, related to 2, since given the implied volatility, the formula would tend to underestimate the price of an option, given the price and apply the volatility derivation procedure, an overestimation of the volatility will be obtained. The extent of the overestimation depends on the option's moneyness. It is, however, higher for the ATM, while for the OTM the differences are very reduced, in order of 1–2% on the value of expected volatility. However, there are other options evaluation techniques which are better suited to American-style ones, such as binomial trees. So far that's all. Thank you for your attention.